Good afternoon, and as Ms. McLaughlin said, thank you for joining us for this very important briefing as it relates to Hurricane Ida. Before we provide some critical information and details for our residents to be aware of, I'd like to assure the residents that we will get through this emergency that is looming. We want all residents not only to be prayerful, but be considerate of one another. Support your neighbors. If you know that there's a neighbor that is elderly, that has issues with mobility, please check on those neighbors and ensure that they have the things that they need in order to manage through this particular severe weather event. I'd like to thank all of the members of our Public Works staff, Jackson Police Department, Fire Department. I'd like to thank the Board of Supervisors who is here along with us, and the emergency manager, all of which will stand before you in just a moment to provide you critical information for this severe weather event. I'd like to invite our Public Works engineer, our city engineer, to come forward, Mr. Charles Williams, to share some details with you. Crews will be on standby this weekend, being prepared to respond on Monday and Tuesday when the storm passes through the Jackson metro area. The viaducts on Gallatin and Monument Street will be closed to traffic starting Monday morning due to the fact that these areas are prone to flooding. Sandbags have already begun to be issued at Michael Avalon, and they will continue to be issued starting today, which it began around 8 a.m. and will continue to 7 p.m. And this will go on at those hours until Tuesday, August 31st. With that, I'd like to ask Dr. Williams to come forward before I share some additional details with you.
Thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon. We are tracking the storm as we get more information available to us. We do have our crews that will be on standby beginning tomorrow, going into Monday into Tuesday. We believe that the storm will enter the Jackson metro area sometime around late Monday to early Monday morning, and our crews once again will be on standby. I want our residents to know that they need to take this storm with a very high risk. We obviously we are still monitoring the track of the storm, and we also want you to pay attention to the newscast as it progresses. We want you to also keep in mind that your traveling habits, a lot of areas that you may not be familiar with, especially at night, please find alternative routes if you see a large sum of water on the roadways. A lot of times you cannot judge the amount of water that's on the street, and you can get yourself into instant trouble. So once again, turn around, don't drown. Other things to look for is that as the storm moves through, with obviously high winds that could possibly come through the area. If there's any downed trees, please call our 311 system. If anything does occur late Sunday going into Monday morning, we actually call 601-960-1875. If you don't have to get out, we ask you not to get out during this particular time, but please take this storm very seriously, and please monitor your habits as far as your driving. Slow down, obey the speed limits, and most importantly, if you see water on the streets and you don't know how high it is, turn around. And our crews, once again, will be on standby if needed during this time, and we'll be ready to be active as quickly as we can to respond to any calls that may occur during that time. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you again, Dr. Williams. And to reiterate what he just said about flood waters, if you are under a flood warning, seek higher ground and shelter right away. Do not walk, swim, or drive through flood waters. Once again, turn around, do not drown. I'd like to ask at this time if our police chief, James Davis, can come forward just to share some details about how the police department is preparing ahead of this, this severe weather event.
Thank you, Mayor. As we track this storm, we're looking to go to our emergency 12-hour plan, where we have all officers available, whether they're detectives, whether the chief all the way down to the youngest officer, will be available. Our officers will be in patrol cars so that we can address the needs of the community. We understand that we're going to have visitors. As I track some of the hotels, we have visitors moving into Jackson as we speak. So we want the citizens to know that we are accessible. We have, I think, 3 or 4 shelters available. So if anyone in need of shelter, please call 960-1234. If you're stranded, you can call the same number, and we'll be available to address the needs as this storm grows. Thank you.
I just want our president of the Board of Supervisors to know that I'm saving the best for last. I'm going to come to you in just a moment. I'd like to ask at this time if Chief Owens of the fire department will come forward and share a few details about our fire department.
Thank you, Mayor. One of the main things that the fire department is concerned about is power lines down and trees down, especially power lines, because that could be a dangerous thing for us as well as the citizens. So I'm sure if this storm is like they said it's going to be, there are going to be some instances where there will be some lines down, and we have to be very, very careful in those situations. We will be activating our high water rescue team. We do have a high water rescue team. We'll be activating them just in case they are needed. And if they're needed, if we're called upon, we will be responding, as well as any other of our fire units that is called upon. That's about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. I'm going to call Ms. Lakeisha Weathers up in just a moment, but let me give you a few other flood safety tips. Listen to your local news media or weather radio for current emergency information and instructions regarding flooding. Make a plan for your household, including your pets, so that you, your family, know what to do, where to go, and what you need to protect yourselves from flooding. Learn and practice your evacuation routes, shelter plans, and flash flood response. Gather medicine, supplies, including non-perishable food, cleaning supplies, and water for several days in case you must leave immediately or if services are cut off in your area. If you are under a flash flood warning, as I said earlier, seek higher ground and shelter right away. Do not walk, swim, or drive through flood waters, as I said before. Turn around, don't drown. Please call 911 for emergencies. I ask that you reserve 911 calls for emergencies only. That is important so that we do not flood the lines, making it difficult for response. Stay safe and stay well as a general reminder. There are 2 emergency shelters that have been identified for residents should they require it. The first is at JPD Police Training, at the JPD Police Training Academy, which is at 3000 St. Charles Street. And the second one is at Champion Street Gym, which is at 1344 Hattiesburg Street. Additional details will be made available should additional shelters become necessary. At this time, I'd like to ask Ms. Lakeisha Weathers to come forward just to speak about solid waste, and then I'm going to ask the President of the Board of Supervisors and the Emergency Manager to come forward.
Thank you, Mayor Lumumba.
In case you need it. I know you already know it.
Thank you, Mayor Lumumba. To speak to garbage collection, I want to make sure that residents do understand that as of today, garbage collection will be collected on schedule. We have not had any changes right now related to collection, If there is a change related to the collection of garbage, please follow your local news channels along with the City of Jackson's social media pages for any updates. Regarding down trees, as Dr. Williams said earlier, any trees that affect the City of Jackson's right-of-ways or cause or pose a danger regarding transportation, then those will be addressed first. But we're asking residents to please give us at least 2 weeks to come into the communities to assess any curbside or any trees down on the property. We do want to remind the residents that if you're hiring contractors to come to your home, if you're paying contractors for debris removal services, then it's up to those contractors to remove that debris. That's regarding tree debris, or if there is any structural damage, any materials that they remove relating to that, that would also be removed or the responsibility of the contractor. Please make sure that you're hiring certified or licensed contractors to ensure that that debris is disposed of properly. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Weathers. And let me tell you what a compliance pile is. And these are the piles that can be left at the corner. A compliance pile is limbs that are cut 4 feet in length and stacked in small piles no higher than 3 feet tall. And so that is a compliant pile. If it is out of compliance, then the garbage collection will not pick that up. But once again, if you hire an independent certified contractor, it is their responsibility to not only cut down or remove the debris from your yard, but it is also their responsibility to dispose of that debris. As Ms. Weathers stated, please allow us 2 weeks, and why that is important. Not only is it important for our assessment period of time for insurance claims, but it is also important for us to be able to issue the necessary contracts to help with debris removal. And so we ask that you are patient with us while we know debris on the curb or, debris that you want us to pick up is unsightly. We need this period of time in order to have a proper response to a major weather event. At this time, I'd like to ask the President of the Board of Supervisors, Mr. Calhoun, to come forward and share some details with you.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to thank the mayor for inviting the county over to talk to you a little bit about what's going on in this emergency as far as the county is concerned. Now, we have Department of Public Works, and the Department of Public Works is going to be available. We know that there's going to be some trees down. We're prepared to get those trees up as rapidly as possible. And to mention something about power lines, it's very important that you watch out for power lines, because you can get hurt very easily. Matter of fact, you can get killed very easily if you are not careful with power lines. And I see Energy is here, and they probably want to talk a little bit about that. But those power lines can kill, and they can kill very easily if you're not careful. Now, I have my EEOC officer here. I want him to come up and talk about some things that MEMA and FEMA will be assisting us with in this emergency. Come on up, Mr. Perkins.
Good evening. Good evening. I basically want to echo everything that's been said from everybody that's gotten up here before me. Basically, be prepared. Have multiple ways to receive emergency alerts. We will receive impacts from this storm. Winds, rain, a lot of rain, possible tornadoes. Again, flooded roads, turn around, don't drown. If you live in low-lying areas that flood, again, prepare now. Emergency management personnel will be operational throughout the storm to assist the city, as needed. We're in contact with MEMA, who is in contact with FEMA. So we'll be monitoring it with the National Weather Service and provide updates as needed.
Thank you.
I'd like to thank the county for being so responsive to the needs of our residents. The order of emergency is typically the municipalities issue a declaration of emergency. It is then followed by the county. The county is then followed by the state and the federal government should it be deemed appropriate by the federal government. And so I just want to publicly thank the county for its responsiveness to the needs of our residents as we have endured several emergencies in recent years. If there are any additional questions, we are prepared to answer those. As always, I would like to remind you for critical alerts regarding emergencies that you can sign up for Code Red on the city's website. That is www.jacksonms.gov. JacksonMS being one word, jacksonms.gov, and there is a Code Red tab. It will tell you about water outages. It will tell you about where there may be trees down or any other critical alerts that you need to know in a time such as this. If you have any additional questions, I think we are prepared to accept them at this time. Yes, sir.
As of right now, is there any looking into any curfews being put in place during the hurricane hours or any school closures?
I would say stand by for those details. As more information is provided to us, then we will be as nimble as we can be and respond accordingly. All of this is in anticipation for severe weather. Severe weather is variable, and so it can change. We'd rather be over-prepared than under-prepared. And so that is a possibility, but we are not ready to issue that at this time. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
For the emergency shelters, is there a capacity limit because of COVID?
That is a good question. What I added to my note, I gave you the 2 locations, and I said that stand by for additional information should it be necessary. If we see that becoming a problem, then we will address it at that time. I can assure you, while we know that there are going to be additional people in the area who are seeking shelter from coastal parts of not only the state of Mississippi but surrounding states, we know that there's likely going to be more people within our hotels, and I think that our police chief has a plan to address that, where they will be able to beef up some of the patrols to not only maintain their normal duties and responsibilities within our communities, but also to support around those areas as well.
All right, so we've seen how emergency situations and severe weather has impacted our infrastructure system here in Jackson. Is the water system prepared to hold up, and power? Are we prepared for this?
As I always say, I continue to reiterate that we are always in a state of emergency with our water distribution system until we replace our outdated, crumbling water infrastructure. We're prayerful that it will sustain. It has not given us any warning to date that it will go out, but we have to be prepared to adjust. We don't know what may ensue based on this severe weather. We may experience some challenges unrelated to the historic challenges that we have suffered with our water distribution system. So that remains a possibility, and that's why we advise our residents to store non-perishable items. We advise our residents to make sure that they have their medication on hand, that they prepare for evacuation routes and the like, because we don't know all of the things that may take place due to severe weather. We're prayerful that that is not what we experience. We're prayerful that, like I said before, that we're over-prepared, and all of this is in the final analysis, not necessary. But we'd rather be prepared and not needed than not be adequately prepared. Any other questions? All right, thank you again. I'd like to thank the local media The residents rely on you in times like this, especially to get them the critical alerts that they need in order to prepare. I ask once again that our residents stay tuned to your local broadcasts for all information that they need. I'd like to thank not only the City of Jackson staff and employees that have come here on a Saturday in order to provide information to our residents. I'd like to thank the Board of Supervisors. And I have to correct you on one thing because we're bragging on our new addition, Supervisor Calhoun. Entergy is not in the room. Louis Wright, who is our new CAO, is in the room, right? So I am certain that he knows the script, but but he is not an official representative of Entergy anymore. But once again, I will end as I started. We are all prayerful for all of our residents. We ask that the best of what Jackson is about shines through in this critical moment, that we check on one another, that we support one another. Love you and God bless.
In closing, just as a reminder, if you see trees down on the roadways obstructing traffic, please report those to 311. A city number is 601-960-1168 or 601-960-1193. If those trees are on power lines, yes, they should be reported to Entergy, but otherwise, call into the city. Thank you. Have a great afternoon.